Hello, hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. This is Okeba Anahata Ra, and I'm coming back to you with tip number 5 as we are concluding our month of February, where we were talking about different ways that we can communicate in very loving ways, right? And so today I want to share a tip with you, and this tip is about listening, right? Listening fully, listening attentively, listening with your heart, trying to understand. Remember, when we talk about listening, when we talk about the heart oftentimes say, I feel you, I feel you, I feel what you're saying. You know, we can say, I hear what you're saying, I feel what you're saying. That means that you have engaged another part of your being. You've engaged your heart. You've engaged not necessarily your emotions per se, but you've engaged a part of you that is really able to understand. The heart understands, right? It is our it's the seat of understanding, understanding, overstanding. Check out my other video. I'll put that one up there. I forgot which one that was. I'm going to put the link in there where I talk a little bit more so about the heart. I think that's where I was speaking about anger, the different aspects of anger in the heart. But anyway, listening with one's heart. And part of listening, and that part of what allows you to be able to be a good listener is, number one, not allowing yourself to be easily distracted, right? So take away the basic things that oftentimes distracts us, right? The phones, the televisions, right? If someone is trying to have a heart-to-heart talk with you, of course, we need to move those things out of the way. But also putting yourself in an environment where you can talk. This can be looked at as number 2, where the environment, sometimes certain environments may be distracting. Like, I know sometimes my husband and I, we may be talking. Our meeting space oftentimes in the mornings, like, we meet up in the kitchen and we'll start talking about things. And you know, the children may come in there after we start talking. And of course, you know, children, they start pulling you on you when they see, oh, mommy, oh, daddy, right? And we just say, okay, well, let's just table this and we'll talk about it a little later. You know, we'll talk about it in the bedroom or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So sometimes you need a good environment, or not sometimes, oftentimes you need a good environment to have a deeper conversation with someone. So that's an important part of having good communication and being able to listen to someone. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's just not the right time to really hear someone. So be able to tell someone, well, you know what? Let's talk about this a little later. Let's table it, right? So those two things. I'm looking down, so I want to make sure I don't forget. Stopping those other forms of distractions, which may be in the forms of other people, right? In the forms of other people. Maybe others ought not to be in the space. And I'm not simply talking about your children, but it just may not be the right time and place in terms of the people who are present. It just may not be a good time to communicate about certain things, to share your disagreement or dissatisfaction with something that was said or done, right? So using the environment carefully, the people who are around and such, those all kind of tie in to be the same thing, those things that can be distractors to our heart-to-heart communication with one another. And also, when you communicate, and this really taps into the heart, when you try to step into the other person's shoes, trying to understand by way of looking at it from their viewpoint, how do they see it? When they're explaining something to you, not just seeing what you're thinking about, if it's something that may have affected you as well, try to maybe put your emotions to the side for a second and hear what they're having to say and try to step into their shoes. If you were in their position, you know, or even if you're not in their position, but based on the way they're explaining to you, can you at least understand what they're saying, right? Because you may not respond the way they did if you were in their position, but at least try to understand. This is what helps us to have better communication with one another. And we all, you know, we can all revisit these things that help us along the way, but it's important for us to have loving communication with one another, to maintain our families, to maintain our friendships, our family relationships, our, you know, anywhere where we might find ourselves. And one of the last points I want to mention is about when you're giving a person your attention, to look them in the eyes when you're speaking to them. Now, I'm going to do another video where I talk about some of this looking in the eye thing, but I'm talking largely about your friends, your loved ones, your spouse, your intimate partner, your children. When you're having serious conversations, to look them in the eyes and allow them to look you in the eyes as you're communicating with them, if you're trying to share a point. And it can be a very intimate, shared moment. It can be a special moment. It can communicate the seriousness of what you're trying to say. I find this with my son. I have a second son that's about to approach teenage years, and oftentimes it's just communication bypass, but then other times I'll look at him and I'll stare at him, Seth, and then I'll talk with him and I'll look him in the eyes, and the communication comes across much better and a lot differently, like he really understands what I'm saying. And then I let him communicate with me from that point. And a lot of times teens, they look away, you want to look back here, let me see, let's talk, right? And so those are just my tips here, to really listen with the heart. And so what I've shared was just some ways that you can listen by way of the heart, and removing those obstacles or those distractions for good communication with the heart. All right, I hope these tips were helpful for you. I hope they are helpful for you and you're putting them in place. We can all, bone up our communication skills. Nowadays, everybody's talking, but it just seems like the communication is not just you saying something. It's one person putting information out and somebody else is receiving it. So it is an exchange. That's what communication is. And it just seems like people are kind of putting things out there. They're putting information out there. There are others who are exchanging, getting the information back, but oftentimes it just seems like something gets lost in between. And this is where a lot of feuding and fighting comes from, when communication is oftentimes not effective. Right, so that's it for now. I hope that it was helpful for you, and until next time, always be beautiful inside and out, and I'll see you then. Peace.